evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome here to the Flatout Racing Network's coverage of race number 4 of season 61 of the Rolling Thunder Gaming Talladega Challenge Series, here for our second trip to Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway here this season. And believe it or not, with the rather shortened schedule, only 14 races here this season, tonight is the halfway point of the regular season. Only 8 regular season races, 6 playoff races, so after tonight, it's the halfway evaluation for drivers to either solidify themselves a spot in the upcoming playoffs or get themselves into the conversation, as there's a bunch of drivers, a lot of big names that are still mired down there in the point standings. The first 3 races on the year have not gone their way. I'm Seth Cole here tonight. I'm flying solo. Want to wish my broadcast colleague Michael Norman a very happy birthday, as that's what he is currently doing here today and this evening. But getting ready here tonight for what should be a good one. As mentioned, it's the second time that these drivers have been to Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway this season. Second time at this venue with the Aero 88 car. That's been the biggest X factor here this season so far, after the mod change was announced from the trucks that they ran the last 2 or 3 seasons over to these Aero 88 cars. Now, last week at Talladega, seemed like they started to get some things figured out. It was the second time they'd been there with the Aero 88 car. We ended up seeing the long green flag run at the end, green flag pit stops, and that great finish coming down to the checkered flag. Tim Nofsker, by the way, ended up snapping a winless streak that went all the way back to race 3 of season 59. That may not seem like much. It's about maybe a little over 2 seasons, but consider the fact that that checkered flag was received on May 18th of 2023. That is a pretty long winless streak, so nice to see him snap that as he joins Dante Ricky and Greg Palmer as winners on the season so far. Will we have a 4th different winner here tonight? We'll have to find out. Packed field here this evening. We were close to almost sending some drivers home via knockout queue, but fortunately we were under that window. 38 drivers officially will take the green flag here tonight in this one, and after all that, there's more. Tonight is the first race of the bracket series because of the shorter regular season. The bracket series starts up here tonight, and we'll be giving you the list of who's going head-to-head in the 32 drivers taking part in that bracket challenge in just a little bit. But cars are gridding up here on pit road. We're awaiting for the command to fire up the engines. You see your pole sitter is going to be the 111, I'm sorry, of Ron Hagelin. Ron comes into this race currently situated in, I had his name and then I lost it, in 36th in points. So remember I'd said that there were some big names that really need to get the season going now because there's only 5 races left in the regular season. Ron Hagelin is one of those drivers. Bob Dixon is going to line up on the front row alongside of him. Bob Dixon comes to this race 28th in the point standings. Bear in mind, though, we've only got 3 races under our belts, so a lot of points on the table with the big field, and the points are still super close. I think there's only 94 points separating the top 38 in the standings, which in that top 38, there's about 42 drivers, I believe, because we've got some ties for position all the way through the points. So it will be interesting to see who is going to move up, who is potentially going to drop down in the point standings at the conclusion of this one. I think we had a couple of drivers up there moving to the back. One of them looked like it might have been the 4 of Brian Schilling. So we gave you the front row. Row 2 is going to be Greg Palmer, our season opening winner, and he'll be alongside of one of the Blue Angels. That's Jerm Lewis. Row 3 will be Glenn Harris and Wiley Coate. Row 4, Jeremy Jeffries and Billy Elliser. And completing the top 10 was going to be Terry Bombard and Brian Schilling, but Schilling, you can see there, top of your screen, has dropped the Busch Beer Chevrolet to the back of the field. Bobby Farrell and Jessica Shelton there in row 6. Cy Jones and Richard Martin, row 7. Row 8 will be Kelly Causey and Bernie Mobbs. Row 9, Rodney Sullins and John Godfrey. Chuck McClure, he will share the 10th row with Josh Metallic. Row 11 will be Robbie Nisus and Brian Rawson. Row 12, JT Mayhew and Donnie Garrett. And row 13 is where you're going to find Grant Wesley and Milt Surratt. Row 14, Mark Paglia and Doug Hewlick. Ken Roberts, he will complete the top 30 with Chris Emery. Tim Nofsker, last week's winner, all the way back in the 31st starting position here tonight. He's back in row 16 with Craig Hagley. Joe DeSpirito, your points leader, coming into this evening. He's back in row 17 with Bob Sire. Alan Martin and Jason Scheck, they're back in row 18, and in the 19th and final row in 37th and 38th will be Tom Dixon and Doug Woolley. That's your 38 drivers for this evening's 66-lap feature from the Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway. It's the Coca-Cola Chevrolet Monte Carlo SS, the 111 of Ron Hagelin. Red hubcaps and all. Actually, red hubcaps on both cars on the front row as they come down here through the tri-oval, and the flagman has the green flag in the air. Race number 4 is underway. Double wide all the way back through the field. Little movement around mid-pack. Potential 3 wide. That was Joe DeSpirito, Tim Novsker, Milt Surratt. And I believe they are 3 wide going into turn 3. As the inside gets the advantage through 3 and 4. Hagelin will clear for the top spot. Greg Palmer looking to push him further and get himself clear of that outside line. Bob Dixon still leading that second lane. Pulls them back alongside the right rear of Ron Hagelin, but Hagelin will lead the first lap of the evening. Like a couple of cars had their left front tires down on the apron, Cy Jones being one of them. Got to be careful of that. We know that the Aero 88 car is a little bit lighter in the back with the lower spoiler, not as much downforce, and you have the car turning as far left as it will if the left front hooks that transition of the banking to the flat of the apron. The right rear will more than likely start sliding and the car could come around. So you got to be very, very delicate with how far down to the inside you go, especially in the corners. Bob Dixon on that outside line cleared the nose of Ron Hagelin, and he will lead that lap. Hagelin going to cross him to the top now, and he'll look to take the lead back. Third line forming up there. Germ Lewis, along with Jessica Shelton, Kelly Causey, Rodney Sullins, and I believe that's Robbie Nice is there as well. Making that third line work, making a charge, and that's going to, as we've seen in the past, more than likely stall out that middle lane. So the middle line's holding pretty well. Hagelin sees the third line coming, trying to decide whether he's going to stay in the middle with Palmer or go up there with Germ Lewis. Looks like he's trying to straddle both lanes and kind of block them both at the same time. It's a risky maneuver because if both lanes get a run, you might find yourself in the middle 4 wide going to the back with no help. And Glenn Harris, big move there for the Krispy Kreme Chevrolet. He's going to move into the middle and look to challenge Bob Dixon for the top spot. Jeremy Jeffries now moves into the second car on that inside line. Behind him, Terry Bombard. Look at the momentum. Look at the surge right there from that middle lane down the back straightaway. Harris will get alongside of Dixon. Oh, got loose, and he's going to get Hagelin. Hagelin looks to save it, and he does. What a great job by Ron Hagelin, who had the bumper grab in the center of the corner off of Harris. Everyone scattered to give him room, and he gathered it up. That should have, folks, been the first caution of the night. It should have been a big one at the front of the field, and what a job of wheeling that car to stay straight by our pole sitter. Well, there's the first heart jump of the night for all these drivers, and maybe, just maybe, that's going to settle them down just a little bit here, and we may see the 3 wide that we saw here in the early going dissipate just the least little bit. Drivers need that little bit of a check every now and then to realize you can't win the race on the first lap, but you can definitely lose it, and it's very early still in this one. And as I documented as well, a lot of drivers, they need points here tonight. They need a good finish. They'd love a win, but I'm certain they definitely would take a top 5 or in some cases even just a top 10 after the struggles they've had in the first 3 races of the season. Bob Dixon, though, out in front. Nice to see the 143 leading the way. It's kind of interesting because I thought about this coming into this race. Last week, everybody, for the most part, experienced what it was like with the Aero 88 cars to make a green flag pit stop at Talladega. There are only 2 drivers in this field here this evening that know what it's like in race conditions to make a green flag pit stop here at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway. Bob Dixon is one, Donnie Garrett is the other. Remember 2 weeks ago, they came to pit road just before a caution came out. Everybody else, they were planning on coming to pit road, but with the yellow flag waving, they then made the subsequent pit stop under caution. So Dixon and Garrett are the only 2 under race conditions that know what to expect when making a green flag pit stop here at this venue with the Aero 88 cars. And remember back when Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway was added onto the schedule and they did the alternating between Talladega and BSR, we heard from drivers, and we continue to hear from drivers, that it's an entirely different animal. Pitting at Talladega is not the same as pitting here at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway. You have to approach both of them differently. So for some drivers, they may still be going to school if we end up having a green flag pit stop cycle. But I guess that little bit of a scare there with Harris and Hagelin, it didn't knock any sense into these drivers. We're still 3 wide again. Jeremy Jeffries now leading the middle line with Jessica Shelton in tow. Jerm Lewis still trying to get the 3rd line going. Now he's got some new friends up there, including Josh Metallic and Glenn Harris. I want to give the list here of who's going up against who in the bracket challenge, but with what we're seeing right here, I don't want to look away from the screen and miss something happening. Maybe we'll take the opportunity, if we have a bit of a break here in the action, to be able to give you that information as Shelton crosses from middle to the bottom, looking to put the Reese's Ford, or I'm sorry, the Reese's Chevrolet, I should say, out in front. Shelton gained 11 spots in the standings last week after a top 10 run, now 21st in overall points, and she will get the bonus point for that lap led. Another couple of drivers that really made some big strides with good runs last week. Obviously, Tim Nofsker with the victory, jumped up 17 spots from 31st to 14. Ryan Schilling moved up 10 spots into the top 10 in overall standings from 16th to 6th as Chuck McClure leads the 3rd lane, and he'll get propelled to the front. Oh, Jerm Lewis around in the middle of the pack, and the big one is struck. We avoided near disaster earlier. We did not avoid it this time. We got a bunch of cars that are flipping over too. Brian Rawson was one of them. There's another one right there. That's Jeremy Jeffries up and on his lid. Oh. There were others that were up and over too. At least 2 other cars that I saw that were upside down. Kelly Causey all torn up on the back end. We'll get to more of drivers and what they were able to do last week in terms of gaining points in just a moment. Doug Woolley, who started shotgun on the field. Not sure if he was involved or if he may have just come to a stop and let everything unfold in front of him. Jeremy Jeffries was on his roof, was not able to get flipped over in time, so he had to call for a tow. We'll have to wait and see how badly damaged that car is in terms of whether it would be up to speed or not. I would assume not. And I'm just trying to figure out here, as we cycle through the field, I know there was at least one other car upside down besides Jeremy Jeffries and Brian Rawson, but I'm not sure who it was. Let's find it out as we go back and take a look at our first replay of the evening. And it's so tough to see something like that in the center of the corner, because there really is, especially with how they were stacked up 3 wide. They were about 7 rows deep, 6, 7 rows deep. There's just no maneuverability to be able to avoid the wreck. So Jeremy Jeffries got into the left rear quarter panel of Jerm Lewis. Oh, Doug Woolley was the other car that I saw up and over. Oh, Kelly Causey back up the track. He flips in the air along with Jeremy Jeffries. Jerm Lewis, the back end of his car popped up in the air when Brian Rawson was barrel rolling. try and see if the 616 comes down and wasn't clear, because he was in the outside line. Does he get a bad bump? No, he just tried to clear himself. Jeremy does move up a little bit there, but it definitely looks like the 616 was trying to cut down in front of Jeremy Jeffries to lead the middle line, and he was definitely not clear. Mark Paglia, Doug Hewlick involved. There are a bunch of them. We're going to look from the aerial view here. This will give us a better idea. Let's watch this all the way down the back straightaway. Watch the blue and yellow car second on that outside line. Yeah, so right there, you see Chuck McClure, he makes the dive from the top down to the bottom. He was clear on Jeremy Jeffries and Jessica Shelton, and Jerm Lewis tried to do the same thing. I don't think he was paying attention to the fact that he wasn't clear of that middle line. And he just cuts off the nose of Jeremy Jeffries. Was not aware that he was not clear of the middle line. I don't even think he would have been clear of the inside line, so I'm not necessarily certain where he was going. He was reacting to the car in front of him, but obviously not aware of the surrounding two inside lines. Let's get one more look at it here. Yeah, see right there? See the exact moment the 17 darts left, Jerm Lewis does the same. Oh, there you see Jerm Lewis backs into Kelly Causey. That sends him flipping, and then Kelly Causey and Jeremy Jeffries as well. I mentioned about the 99 of Doug Woolley going for a flip. Let's take a look at that. Big list of drivers involved in this one, obviously with the area of the wreck and how stacked up they were. Doug Woolley going to get a hit from behind by Alan Martin. It looks like he kind of grip flipped there with the banking. There's Robbie Nisus, Billy Elliser, Milt Surratt. Might have been a good call on Brian Schilling in the 4. Taking that voluntary EOL at the start of this race when he was slated to roll off from the 10th position because he was behind all of this. Everybody came to pit lane. So that extends the fuel window a little bit. We would have been about a little less than halfway through a fuel run, I think. Might have run right around the halfway of a fuel run. And Jessica Shelton won the battle off of pit road. She'll be the one to lead us back to green. Bob Dixon will line up to her outside. Bobby Farrell will line up in 3rd. Josh Metallic in 4th. Then it'll be Rodney Summons completing the top 5. Bernie Mobbs up in 6th. Greg Palmer in 7th. 8th place will be Wiley Coate. Donnie Garrett in 9th. And Joe DeSpirito, who started all the way back in 34th, the points leader, is now up in the top 10. Jeremy Jeffries, I believe, has returned onto the racetrack. He is 1 lap down, though. And 2 drivers out of the race, as we saw from the wreck. And those drivers will include Jerm Lewis and Doug Woolley. Lewis will get 37th, and Doug Woolley will get 38th. Lights are still on the pace car, so we will have at least one more lap of caution here. So that'll give the opportunity to be able to give the list of who is going up against who in this first round of the Talladega Challenge Bracket Series. 32 drivers, they get seeded based off of where they are in the point standings. So Joe DeSpirito would be taking on the driver who took the checkered flag the last time we were here 2 weeks ago. That'd be Dante Ricci, but Dante is not in the field, so by default, Joe DeSpirito, the defending champion of the Bracket Challenge from Season 60, will be moving on to the next round. Bernie Mobbs taking on Brian Rawson, and Brian was just involved in that last wreck. Greg Palmer is taking on Dave Melson. Richard Martin, the defending champion, is facing off against Wiley Coate. Kelly Causey is going up against Cy Jones. Rodney Sullins taking on Donnie Garrett. JT Mayhew going up against Bob Dixon. Jerm Lewis facing off against Jessica Shelton. Bob Seminara is taking on Bobby Farrell, so a Bob versus Bob there. Chuck McClure is versing Glenn Harris. Josh Metallic is taking on Doug Cady. Cady is not in the field here tonight, so Metallic will be moving on by default. Ken Roberts is facing off against Milt Surratt. Mark Paglia taking on Craig Hagley. Last week's winner, Tim Nofsker, is going up against Terry Bombard. Brian Schilling facing off against Jeremy Jeffries. Jeffries damaged, obviously, and a lap down, so Schilling may have the upper hand as of right now. And then John Godfrey taking on Jeff Crivello. Crivello not in the field, and I believe John Godfrey is not in the field, so it will be interesting to see how that one works out. I'm not certain if both drivers do not show up for the event, how they figure out who's going to be moving on to the next round. So tune in next week. We'll have the answer for you. So we're getting ready for the restart here on lap 14 of 66. Jessica Shelton getting ready to get us back underway. Well, we saw that near caution with the contact between Ron Hagel and Glenn Harris in the middle of the front of the pack. Didn't scare these drivers from going back 3 wide. Now we've had our first caution of the night. Let's see if that scares a little bit of sense into the drivers, and if we maybe settle into potentially a fuel run here in anticipation of green flag pit stops. There's some really good action, though, in the first 10 laps of this race. Really exciting as Shelton, a bit of an issue there on the restart. Bob Dixon is going to easily swing around. There might be something actually wrong with the 9. Then I might have missed a shift. Because Dixon, Metallic, Mobbs, Wiley Coat have all cleared around the outside of Jessica Shelton. Joe DeSpirito also clears and will move down to the inside line. And there's last week's winner, Tim Nofsker there. 5th car on that outside line, the orange and red 088, the Holly Farms machine. Tim Nofsker, as we mentioned, had that winless streak that he snapped last week that stretched back to last May. He does not want another winless streak that long. He'd love to be a back-to-back winner here in season 61. As Josh Metallic and the Gray Ghost now out in front and in the race lead. Josh Metallic with a great run last week. Jumped up 6 spots in the standings. He is 7th in overall points. Remember, the playoff system here is the top 12 in the point standings, and then any drivers that are inside of the top 20 in the points with a victory that are not necessarily inside the top 12 in overall standings. So right now, Joe DeSpirito, the points leader. Bob Seminara, 19 points back. Mark Paglia, 21 points out. Kelly Causey, 24 points back. JT Mayhew, 28 points out. Along with Brian Schilling, Josh Metallic, Greg Palmer, the defending champion Richard Martin, Ken Roberts, John Godfrey, and Jerm Lewis came into this race currently in the coveted top 12 in overall standings. 2 of our 3 previous winners in, one of our previous 3 winners in that top 12. Tim Nofsker 14th, so he right now would be into the playoffs via a win. And then Dante Ricky, obviously, as we know, on a part-time schedule. The winner from 2 weeks ago, he's 32nd in points. Unlikely that we're going to see Dante in the playoffs by the end of the regular season. But we got a tale of 2 fields right now. We got about the top 8 or 9 all single file, and then they're 3 wide, about 5 rows deep. Trying to get organized up here at the front of the field. Joe DeSpirito slots behind Metallic in 2nd. Shelton in 3rd after the restart issue. Bobby Farrell right behind in the 4th spot. And then Rodney Sullins currently in the 5th position. Update on some of the drivers involved in the wreck and how up to speed they may be. It looks like about 4 drivers on the tail end of the lead lap that have lost the lead pack. Tom Dixon, Brian Rawson, Kelly Causey, and JT Mayhew. I want to give a shout out and congratulations to JT Mayhew. picked up a win Monday night in the Bare Bones Racing Series at the Auto Club Speedway. But not the evening he was looking for here in this one. Coming into this race 5th in points, and JT has had a strong season, and I guess we could say a half now. Season and a third. Last season up there in the top 5 in overall point standings, made his way into the playoffs, and has had a good start to the year so far in this one, but obviously not good luck here this evening. There is the Barks root beer machine topping out at 181. Kelly Causey and Brian Rawson trying to get up here to Tom Dixon. This is 32nd, 33rd, 34th, and 35th. One driver that I did not see as we were cycling through. Oh, there he is. Yeah, Jeremy Jeffries is actually up here in this pack and appears to be up to speed. I mean, he just got a run on the back of Ron Hagelin. That car was up and over. It was on its roof. He's a lap down because of having to call a tow, but that thing still looks competitive. So Jeremy Jeffries clamoring for a caution flag right now to give him an opportunity of getting back into this thing. I honestly, with how hard of a hit he took there, and the fact that the car that he ended up wrecking with up into the outside wall, Kelly Causey being off the pace, I would have written the one car off for tonight, but that is obviously not the case. By the way, a correction on my part, the matchup of John Godfrey versus Jeff Crivello, I said that neither one was in the field here tonight. John Godfrey is in the field here tonight, so he would move on by default. So my mistake on that, my apologies. Josh Metallic about to come around here and lead his 6th lap of the night. That is the most that any driver has led so far here this evening. Usually in the first half of the race, we have a driver that kind of sets the bar and leads double-digit laps. And then it's up to drivers in the second half of the race to try and match that. Metallic, with only 6 laps led, has the most. Jessica Schulten has led 4. 2 laps led for Bob Dixon and Ron Hagelin, and Jeremy Jeffries has also led 4 laps. I missed him since he was far down the running order. And then 1 lap led apiece for Terry Bombard and Chuck McClure. And I think the caution is out. It is. Yellow flag waving, and that is the caution that Jeremy Jeffries wanted to see. Because if he was not involved in whatever this caution was for, he would get the free pass and be back on the lead lap. There you see the flagman waving the yellow. Looks like it was on the back straightaway. And may have involved our pole sitter. Glenn Harris also quite a ways back here. Thought I saw some smoke lingering in the second half of the back straightaway here. I'm assuming that's where the incident was, as this would have been around if we had been green since the start of the race, when drivers would have been on pit road. So technically the fuel window is back on par with what these drivers would have strategized for prior to the green flag flying. We'll cover the result of the pit stops here in a moment. For now, we're going to go back and take a look, see if we can figure out what brought out the caution. There's a few candidates back here that might have been involved. Jason Scheck in the 71, maybe. Oh, it was both Hagelin and Scheck, actually, along with the 54 of Nisus and the 5 of Wiley Coates. We had some near up and overs here on the back straightaway off of turn 2. Here's a look at it. Like Wiley Coate thought he was clear on Bob Sire. Oh man, big hit with the front end of the Call of Duty Zombies Chevrolet. There's Jason Scheck, Robbie Nisus as well. See how they were involved in just a moment, but you saw there with that shot, looking down the back straightaway, Wiley Coate went wide off of 2, tried to tuck in line, and Bob Sire was already to his left rear quarter panel. Here's a look at it again, but focused on the Coca-Cola Chevrolet, who had absolutely nowhere to go as he gets clipped in the right rear. Look at that. Nearly blows over. The hit from Robbie Nisus actually settled it back on its wheels, and then shoots the 54 of Nisus up into the 71 of Jason Scheck. I thought with the hit that Robbie Nisus gave to Ron Hagelin that would have maybe propelled the car over on its roof, but it didn't. So that may have, in some sense, saved Ron Hagelin from potential aero damage. That's a shot right there as they pass by the back straightaway camera. We'll get one more look at it here. Watch the 5 left side of your screen. They actually were 4 wide, trying to get around the 54 of Robbie Nisus. And I think that move stalled out. Well, that's a good view of the pole. But I think that move around Robbie Nisus for Wiley Coates stalled his momentum a bit with how wide he went. And that's why Bob Sire was able to get alongside of him. So we've had 2 incidents so far here tonight with drivers having a little bit of difficulty with the clearance. It's got some pit strategy playing out here. Demar, defending champion, getting a bonus point for a lap led. There is Jeremy Jeffries coming to pit lane. Saw him not involved in the wreck, so he's the recipient of the lucky dog. Bob Sire going to stay out, get a lap led bonus point here. And I believe eventually the lead will cycle back around to Josh Metallic, who won the battle off pit road over Rodney Sullins, Bobby Farrell, Greg Palmer, and Tim Nofsker. Well, folks, we got an interesting one coming up here this Sunday night on the Flatout Racing Network. For the first time, you're going to see next-gen cars on the newly designed LA Coliseum, as we've got the call for the exhibition race for the 2024 season of the Fast Renegade Pro Cup Series. Area 23 Design has been working hard on the LA Coliseum ever since last year. They are ready to reveal it in what should be an exciting night of short track racing. Be sure to join us at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time this Sunday night here on the Flatout Racing Network. And looking forward to seeing what that track was going to be like ever since the announcement was made back around the middle of last year. I'm pretty excited that we're going to get to have the first look of what not only just next-gen car, any type of car is going to look like racing around the LA Coliseum. Going to be a good one this Sunday night. And of course, next Thursday night as well, we're back here with the second half of the regular season for the Talladega Challenge Series. We'll be back at Talladega Super Speedway to kick off the home stretch towards the playoffs here in Season 61. Also want to give a shout out to the sponsor of the series, Race LM Arena. The series that you see featured for Rolling Thunder Gaming, Talladega Nights, here on this Flatout Racing Network channel. This game is now over 20 years old. There's not a whole lot of options out there for multiplayer racing servers, and Race LM Arena is really the last of those. They provide a number of servers for a number of series, including the NSRA server that yours truly hosts. Matter of fact, you'll see on Friday, February 23rd, over on the Johto Network, you'll see the 2024 NSRA Daytona 500K. And without RLM Arena, Race LM Arena's servers, these events are not possible. So if you know anybody, or if you yourself would love to have your own racing server, head over to Race LM Arena, check out their website. Really appreciate them with what they do in providing the service for us to be able to take part, both as racers and as spectators, in these Enter 2003 online events. Alright, you saw Jeremy Jeffries go around, get the free pass, so 36 drivers running, all 36 will be on the lead lap. Gonna be fun to watch Jeremy Jeffries and see if he can work his way back up to the front, because that car still looked competitive even though he was off the lead lap at the time on that last run. Josh Metallic and Rodney Sullivan's going to share the front row for this upcoming restart. Bobby Farrell, Greg Palmer in row 2, Tim Nofsker, Joe DeSpirito in row 3, Jessica Shelton, Donnie Garrett row 4, and then the similarly colored cars that always seem to want to confuse me, Grant Wesley and Ken Roberts, going to make up row number 5. Yes, I know that Grant's got the Gatorade sponsorship and that Ken's got the Mountain Dew sponsorship, but they are still white, green, and red, so it takes my brain a little bit of time to process which car is which. And I believe that I'm correct in saying that they are both Darrell Waltrip throwbacks, so that also makes it even more confusing. Alright then, Chevrolet Corvette pace car makes the left-hand turn to pit road, and we're getting ready to go back green flag racing at the completion of lap 25, lap 26 will go on the board. Going to be at least one more pit stop before the conclusion of this race. And even then, going to be super, super close for these drivers to be able to make it the rest of the way. It's like Brian Rawson in the 6 down there in the apron, getting out of the way of the faster cars as we established he is off the pace after he barrel rolled in the first yellow flag. Middle line had the advantage down the back straightaway. Rodney Sullins with a big push from Greg Palmer. They'll get that energy back again here through the tri-oval. Metallic trying to get the inside line momentum pushing forward. Looks to draw even here with Rodney going into turn 1. See if he can keep this momentum going off of turn 2. Car gets tight on that inside line. That's how that middle line gets such the momentum it does, both here and at Talladega. And you see it there again. Looks like Sullins potentially is clear of that inside line. Yeah, he is. But he'll stay up in the middle groove with Greg Palmer. Rodney Sullins right now is the first man on the outside looking into the playoffs. He's 13th in overall points. He's only 1 point, though, below that cut line. So easily here tonight can move his way up into the top 12 in overall standings. Of course, Rodney Sullins, a 2-time appearance in the Final Four for the championship, has been unable to close out the deal. Last year was a 3-time winner, with 2 of his 3 victories taking place right here at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway. Three wide further back, I think that's Chuck McClure. That's trying to get the third line going, along with Richard Martin and Doug Hewlick. Chuck McClure has kind of been the Brian Schilling of season 61. The last couple of seasons, we always saw Brian Schilling, back when we were running the trucks, always going up to that third line and trying to get people to go up there with him. This season, it seems like you can't look at that third lane and it's not the 17 that's trying to get something happening. He was doing this a lot last week, I believe a couple of weeks ago at BSR here, he was doing it as well. And they're making some hay up there on that top line. A lot of drivers now abandoning that middle groove. There's only 4 of them now, with Joe DeSpirito, Ken Roberts, Bob Dixon, and Alan Martin. Most drivers have dipped to the outside line or the inside line. And that's helping that third lane, at least for the moment. We saw Brian Rawson on that last restart dip down below the yellow line, let drivers on by. The reason for that is the following lap, he actually came to pit road and has put the Mark Martin throwback in the garage area. Brian Rawson will get credited for 36th here this evening. Top 5 single file. Tim Knopfsker up there on the outside, trying to get some drivers to move up to that middle groove, but it's only him, Roberts, and Dixon right now. And then everybody else is up in that third lane following the Folger Chevrolet of Chuck McClure. You know, you look at drivers like Greg Palmer and Tim Knopfsker up here inside of the top 10. You wonder what their pre-game plans are now that they've got their previous victories on the season to be able to lean back on. Does having that checkered flag, having that almost guarantee into the playoffs, does that up your aggression level a little bit more? Does it actually make you a little bit more of a passive racer, looking a little bit more for consistency than you are in terms of looking for checkered flags? Remember last season we saw Richard Martin win the championship without even taking a checkered flag during the course of the year, and you know, we've talked with him multiple times up here in the booth post-race, and he said just top 5 him to death. Donnie Garrett, another driver that kind of seems to live by that moniker, and right now he is in the top 5 in the 5th position. A lot of drivers, they want that checkered flag. A lot of other drivers, they just want that consistency, and DMAR proved last year that consistency can win out and can get you a championship. You don't necessarily have to be in victory circle every single week. Well, Rodney Sullins continuing to hug that inside line, as is pretty much the entire top 6 or 7. Grant Wesley going to be the one to step out there and try and lead that middle line. Remember, Grant missed the season opener at Talladega. The last few weeks have not been kind to him since then. He is 34th in the point standings. So that's another driver that needs to start making something happen. Whoa, we got a warper, I think, right there. It looked like the 43 of Richard Martin might have been side to side a little bit there in the middle of the pack. Either that or it was just a slightly jerky move from the middle groove to the inside groove. It looked like Chuck McClure moved in reaction to potentially the 43 warping, but I'm not certain. Whatever, if that was the case, it looks like it's settled out now, so he should be good. As Donnie Garrett and Joe DeSpirito, they're now going to jump up to that middle line in front of Grant Wesley. Miller High Life car on the high line. That seems to make some sense there. He's alongside of Jessica Shelton in the side-by-side for 5th. Idling engines up ahead. That would be Kelly Causey and JT Mayhew, I believe. That's actually the 338 of JT. Looks like they'll catch him in the next couple of laps. JT Mayhew out there obviously off the pace, but he realizes that we're only to the halfway point. A lot can happen between now and the checkered flag, and even though that thing may not be up to speed, there could be a couple more cautions, there could be some big wrecks, there could be more drivers out of the race, and JT came into this race 5th in the point standings, so he needs to run this out, see if he can vulture a couple more spots to preserve his positioning inside the top 12 in overall standings heading into next week. Looks like they're going to catch him going down here into turn 3. As Donnie Garrett and that surge on the outside line is going to get him alongside of Rodney Sullins for the top position. Donnie Garrett coming into this race 20th in points, so a win would at least put him into the playoffs via the victory. With how close the points are, could move him up into the top 12 in standings. We would have to wait and see. Of course, you have to take into consideration the drivers around him in points, where they finish in relation to his victory, but the season is still young. Yes, we are at the halfway point here. starting next week. But we've only got 3 official races under our belt, and we're in the 4th race, and the point standings are still super, super close. A lot of positioning, a lot of points can be gained and or lost, and the fields have been large here in the first 4 races of the season, so a lot of points have been on the table. As Kelly Causey is going to go a lap down there, off the pace after the damage he sustained from the first caution of the evening. Donnie Garrett is clear for the lead. Has the choice to move down if he wants to. He will, along with Joe DeSpirito. And now Grant Wesley is going to be leading that outside line. The 88 and the 088, Tim Nofsker, trying to hook up and make something happen. Got some drivers that are starting to peek up into the top 10 here for the first time tonight. How about Mark Paglia? I don't want to jinx him, but Paglia, in the first 3 races this season, has had issues with gearing on restarts. Has accidentally shifted it down to reverse. He's avoided that so far here tonight, but even despite all the fact that he's had those problems, Paglia is 3rd in overall points. So he has done a great job of overcoming that adversity and getting really good finishes here to start out the season. He's 21 points out of the points lead, and right now looking for a top 10 run. Last time by, he was scored in the 13th position. Got Bob Seminara in our chat here. Seminara 2nd in points coming into this one. No Wi-Fi in half the county. Be back strong next week in the 7-12. We miss having you in the field here, Bob. Looking forward to seeing you next week. Interesting to see where Seminara actually cycles around as far as the point standings at the conclusion of this one. As you saw Rodney Sullins make the move from 3rd. Oh, got a car back there blinking. That's Wiley Coate. But Sullins was 3rd in line, the inside line, jumped up to the middle groove with Greg Palmer, and swings back around for the top position on Donnie Garrett. So I said that we were going back green, potentially with 1 more pit stop to make, and it was right literally on the window for these drivers to be able to make it the rest of the way. The target lap for these drivers is lap 42 to 43. If they can make it there, they've got a shot of potentially getting to the completion of lap 66 on 2 cans of fuel. And that point is coming up in the next 3 to 4 laps. And remember, I said this before, Donnie Garrett and Bob Dixon are the only 2 drivers who have made a green flag pit stop in race conditions with these Aero 88 cars here at BSR. That was 2 weeks ago. Everybody else, yeah, they've tested in practice, they've tested it in happy hour, they have not done it in race conditions yet here at this venue in Season 61. They did it last week at Talladega, but this is an entirely different approach. Oh, car in the wall back there! That was Doug Hulick! And he's back down into the field. So much for the green flag pit stops, as big one number 2 has struck here on the back straightaway, and there you see, that's only about, what, 15 cars, if that were ahead of that incident. Vehicles were strewn all across the back straightaway into the turn 3 entry. And this should be the caution that will allow everyone to be able to make it the rest of the way with what they put in the tank on this pit stop. There you see the smoke lingering on the backstretch. First car that I saw out of shape was the 23 of Doug Hulick, who was having a great run. There he is. Saw a lot of cars scattered all over the backstretch, not certain all of who was involved. There's some rear end damage on the John Godfrey machine. Glenn Harris appears to have some damage. We'll have to figure out all of who was involved. I don't see anybody with significant damage outside of the 23 who went head on into the outside wall there on the back straightaway. May have been a lot of spinning that took place and not necessarily a lot of contact. We'll find out here in a moment as we drop back and take a look at a replay, our third yellow flag of the night. I'll be interested to see what caused this, because Hewlett's car just all of a sudden shot up to the right. Normally you would think it would be bumper grab, maybe they would do something like that. Maybe a bad bump, I'm not sure. Let's see. Glenn Harris is the car behind him. Yep, right there. Bumper grabbed him in the right rear quarter panel. There's Godfrey, Cy Jones, Terry Bombard, Jeremy Jeffries, Milt Surratt, Glenn Harris, Jason Scheck all involved. That's pretty much the car spinning, just swept up into the banking to the entrance of turn 3. There's somebody else further up there. Is that Ron Hagelin? Yeah, Ron Hagelin was around up there in the center of 3 and 4. But like I said, it didn't really look like super heavy contact really for anyone involved in that. Yeah, Harris was shading up to the outside, and it actually almost looks like Hewlett didn't realize he was clear. I think Harris held his line, and Hewlett made the move up and bumper grabbed off the front of the 8. I think Harris was trying to see if he could organize a third lane there. Oh, and then Harris gets clipped late right there from Hagelin, who was trying to get his car refired up the banking there in turns 3 and 4. Let's go to the aerial cam, because I believe this will give us an idea. I think that it actually is the 23 that moves up. Watch this. Harris is going to... Let's see. Does he move up? Yeah, there's the momentum loss. He moved... Oh, no. Okay, so... I think Harris was thinking about maybe with that middle line checking up, going up to the third lane, but when they checked up, you had the 8 into the 23. So glad we did the aerial view there, because you could clearly see the 23 did not move up the track. There was a massive checkup in that middle line, and it led to this incident on the back straightaway. So we had a couple of drivers that stayed out, getting themselves a bonus point for a lap led, but that will turn the lead over to Greg Palmer, winner of the season opener 3 weeks ago. Palmer 8th in overall point standings, so right now, solidly in a playoff position. Actually, this will not turn the lead over to him. Tom Dixon and Bob Sire have stayed out. Dixon going to get a lap led here. Eventually, Greg Palmer will end up getting the race lead, with Donnie Garrett, Joe Spirito, Tim Knopfsker, and Ken Roberts, it looks like. That will be the top 5. The timing of this yellow is going to put Kelly Causey and JT Mayhew, who we saw both lose a lap under green flag conditions there, back on the lead lap via the lucky dog. Neither one were involved in that wreck, so we will have all 35 cars, looks like, on the lead lap on the upcoming restart. So we got at least another lap and a half of caution still to go here. We're into the final stretch here at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway. Drivers should be able to make it the rest away on what they just got on pit road. So now it's basically everything going to be finished out here on the racetrack above the yellow line. We'll be back here for the upcoming restart. We're going to take a quick FRN race break. You won't miss a thing. You'll get to see what's happening here under this caution period. And we'll continue our coverage right after this. Don't go anywhere. Getting ready for our third restart of the night. Greg Palmer and Donnie Garrett ready to get us back underway. Going to be a total of 22 laps to go. That is literally just past the fuel window. 19 to 21 laps is what we've been told that drivers can make depending on where you've been running the field, how much fuel you've been saving during the course of a run. Oh man, this is going to be super tight. You heard during that race break, our race leader and everybody else up inside of the top 10 throwing in the clutch, shutting off the engine, saving every drop of fuel that they can. So we may have some late race dramatics here in the closing stages of this one here tonight. Joe DeSpirito in row 2 with Tim Knopfsker, Ken Roberts and Josh Metallic row 3. Grant Wesley, Bobby Farrow, but up in the top 10 all night long there in row 4. Chuck McClure and Jessica Shelton completion of the top 10 as we are back underway here at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway. So now a lot of questions that we don't know up here in the booth that drivers may or may know down in the cockpit of these machines. 1, can you make it on fuel? 2, if you can, do you want to be the leader? Because if you're the leader and you're using up more fuel, creating the draft for everybody else, does that put you short of making it to the finish? We'll see if the 22 stays out in front here. I mean, if these drivers know that everybody else is going to have to pit, then maybe Greg Palmer just keeps the pedal to the metal, stays out in front here, leads as many laps as he can, maybe try and challenge Josh Metallic for the bonus point for most laps led. Metallic currently with 10 laps led so far here tonight. Realizing that everybody's going to have to come to pit road for a splash. I don't know. Going to have to try and read the field here in what they are doing. You want a driver to keep an eye on, by the way, here as well. A couple of drivers. Jeremy Jeffries was upside down after the first caution of the evening. Had to call a tow. Fell -1, caught a yellow flag, got the lucky dog, got back in the lead lap. He has made his way up to 20. Oh, big hit! Donnie Garrett, Ken Roberts into the outside wall. Caution is going to fly. That was massive impact for those two drivers. Somebody else was in that as well. It might have been Knopfsker. And I'm sure there's probably some others involved as that was right in the center of the corner. That is one of the biggest hits I think we've seen taken so far this season with the Aero 88 cars, as that was straight up into the outside wall in the middle of 3 and 4. Caution is going to wave for the 4th time here tonight, as that was very nearly into our turn 3 camera. There is Ken Roberts. Took a huge shot into the outside wall. Donnie Garrett, the other one there. And I'm pretty sure there is Tim Knopfsker. I'm pretty sure he was the 3rd car that I saw that was sideways. There's no way that was only a 3-car incident. But I'm not seeing anybody else back here. How in the world was that only 3 cars? It was at the front of the field. It was in the middle of the pack. In the middle of the corner, I should say. I don't think you'll see anybody up at the front give up the track position to come to pit road. They're going to take the opportunity to save here under this caution period. Drivers mid-pack rear of the field will maybe make the dive onto pit lane, but let's take a look at what happened there. Did we really only have a 3-car wreck right there? Here's a look at it. Let's see if we can dissect what exactly went wrong. Oh, they checked up. They checked up on that outside line. And, oh, no, Billy Elliser got involved. Robbie Nices got involved. Chris Emery got a piece. Yeah, I knew that more than likely there couldn't have just been the 3 cars involved. There was some major pushing going on in that middle line down the back straightaway. Ken Roberts getting pushed by Donnie Garrett, getting pushed by Tim Knopfsker. And they got a run on Greg Palmer, who had moved up to that middle line. Watch it again here. And it just checks up that 3-car nose to tail right there. Oh. Roberts right up the track into Garrett, into Knopfsker, who then gets hit by the 26 of Billy Elliser. And a couple more get swept up into this as well. But that is a huge, huge impact for both the 55 and the 77. We've been using it a lot here tonight. Let's use the aerial cam again. I want to go all the way back to turn 2 and watch how this generates. So up on the outside line, you've got Nofsker pushing Garrett. Roberts is going to come up here. The momentum is going to put them to his back bumper. There's the chain bump right there. Then to Greg Palmer, and the chain bumping continued into the entrance of turn 3. Gets the 55 sideways, and then he corrects it back up into Garrett. Ooh, big hit there from Robbie Nisus into the back of Donnie Garrett. Be a little bit concerned about the aero damage that could cause. It's where the radiator is housed. And same for the 26 of Billy Elliser, who ended up getting into the 088 of Nofsker. Well, I was wrong. I thought your drivers up at the front of the field were going to stay out and save fuel. Nope, they came to pit lane. Greg Palmer, Joe DeSpirito, Grant Wesley, Chuck McClure, Bernie Mobbs, they all made the dive onto pit road. So maybe they were a lot shorter on fuel than I was originally projected. Doug Hulick elects to stay out here. Maybe he was saving a ton under the last caution period. And may feel he will have enough to get to the checkered flag here with what he saves under this caution period. Remember, we saw him in the wall under the caution prior to this one. After some bumper grab between him, some checkup bumper grab between him and Glenn Harris. So it looks like he's going to be the one that will lead us back to green. Grant Wesley won the battle off of pit road, so he'll be in second. They're still throwing in the clutch. You can see the car is kind of bogging down there as they're all trying to still save some fuel. Joe DeSpirito will be third. Greg Palmer will get shuffled back to fourth. Chuck McClure in fifth. Bernie Mobbs in sixth. Then it's going to be Bobby Farrell, Josh Metallic, Wiley Coate, Jessica Shelton going to be the top 10. Jason Scheck in the 71 has gone back behind the wall. He was involved in the third caution of the night. I didn't get a chance there to see if he was up to speed or not on the most recent restart. But he'll get credit for 35th here tonight, joining Brian Rawson, Jerm Lewis, and Doug Woolley back in the garage area. We're working our fourth caution of the night. We're going to get a restart somewhere in the vicinity of 15 to go. Maybe 16 to go if the lights go out atop the pace car this time. No lucky dogs under this caution, by the way. All drivers running were on the lead lap at the time of this most recent yellow. And bring you up to speed on your lap leaders. Josh Metallic still has the most laps led tonight with 10. Closest competitor to him would be Greg Palmer. He has been out in front for a total of 8 laps. Rodney Sullins for 7. 4 laps led so far here tonight for Jeremy Jeffries. And then 3 laps led for Donnie Garrett. 2 laps led so far for Doug Hulick. He'll lead a third here when he crosses the stripe. Also 2 laps led for Bob Dixon, Ron Hagelin, and Tom Dixon. And then 1 lap led apiece for Chuck McClure, Richard Martin, Terry Bombard, and Bob Sire. Don't think I said Jessica Shelton's name. She led 4 laps as well. So we've had a lot of drivers out in front here. Granted, a number of them staying out under these caution periods to get the bonus point for a lap led. Currently, Josh Metallic would have the bonus point for most laps led here tonight. Still a ways to go, though. Not official yet. Well, Doug Hulick, when he ended up hitting the wall in the back straightaway, he hit it nose first. Be interesting to see if he is up to speed. Seems like these Aero 88 cars, while they seem a little bit more exposed to the current cars or even the trucks that we had the last couple of seasons, they seem pretty durable with the hits they've been able to take. Case in point, Jeremy Jeffries was upside down on his roof, had to call a tow, and on the following restart was able to stay up in the lead pack. We've had during the course of the season drivers that have taken hits but not visibly sustained a whole lot of damage and have appeared to still be up to speed, still be able to be competitive. So Doug Kulik, we'll see if that is the case for him here. Of your top 10, only one of them a previous winner on the season, that being Greg Palmer. So the odds of us having our fourth different winner looking pretty good. The other former winner that's in the field, Tim Knopfsker, who was involved in that wreck over here in turn 3. It's going to restart all the way back in the 29th position. Well, hopefully for the final time tonight, we see the pace car make the dive onto pit lane. It will officially be 16 laps to go to finish out this race. Doug Kulik playing some strategy here to gain track position, looking for his first win on the season. Remember, it was at this very racetrack that Doug Kulik went to victory lane at the timing of a yellow flag when he was on pit road many seasons ago. Looking to relive a little BSR magic as the green flag is back in the air. Grant Wesley was on it for that restart, trying to see if he can clear the 23. Not going to be able to do it. The problem with getting that good of a restart, though, is there's a gap from him back to Greg Palmer. They're lined up on the inside line, so it might be one of the few occasions this evening where the inside line gets the better run down the back straightaway than the middle line. Big shove right there. You saw the 23 get a little out of shape with Joe DeSpirito pushing him. Joe DeSpirito has had an unbelievable start to the year. Started out the season with back-to-back runner-up finishes. 19-point gap already over second place in the standings with only 3 races complete. Starting to try to pad his lead. Oh, we got an engine failure at the back of the pack. That was Tom Dixon, the Batmobile, and it is going to bring out the caution. Yellow flag is going to wave. They're going to make their way back here to the start-finish line. I believe we are in race back now. As Palmer tried to make a move there. Wesley throwing a block. That leaves Bernie Mobbs out to dry in the middle groove. We're gonna have at least one more restart here tonight, and it will be with, I believe, less than 10 to go. As Kulik edging out ahead. I believe he is going to lead us back to the yellow flag, so another caution for him to be able to save fuel. The strategy called to start out in front pays off. And he'll be leading us back to green on the upcoming restart. Waiting for scoring to update. I believe that Grant Wesley crossed the line in second. Whoa, Alan Martin, where is he going? Is he good? Looks like he's good. Wow. Levi Garrett Chevrolet was exiting stage right on our screen there. Not sure what was going on with that. Looks like he didn't hit the inside wall, though. Fortunate. But Kulik did lead us back to the stripe. It was DeSpirito in second, Grant Wesley in third, as they'll pick up the pace car here in the center of 3 and 4. And we saw it towards the back of the pack. Tom Dixon with a mechanical problem. And the sim reads that as a debris caution when the engine expires. He was in the middle of a pack here at the rear of the field too, so this could have been treacherous. Right here off of turn 4 is where it's going to happen. He moves up into the middle lane, and right there, boy, look at that. Ken Roberts, Kelly Causey, evasive maneuvers. Jeremy Jeffries got forced down to the apron to give room to the 00. It is not easy to dart a car when their engine expires and it is right in front of you, because it is a rapid decrease in speed. And when you are right on their back bumper, more often than not, contact is made. The fact that it wasn't in that situation Just shows the cat-like reflexes that these drivers have. Here's another look. Great job by everybody to avoid. And Tom Dixon, unfortunately, was in the middle there, so he didn't have the opportunity to get down here below the yellow line before the caution flew. Normally, if you're able to, when the engine expires, you throw in the clutch and bring it down below the yellow line. That way it will not actually read that you are dropping debris and will not throw the yellow flag, but you could clearly see in that situation, no opportunity to be able to get down to the bottom for Tom Dixon. So it'll set us up for a bit of a shootout here to close out the 4th race of the season. Engine camshaft, the official word on what went south on the number 45 Batmobile. So Tom Dixon joins Jason Scheck, Brian Ross, and Jerm Lewis and Doug Woolley in the garage area. That leaves us with 33 drivers remaining here in tonight's event. Doug Hewlick out in front. Love the strategy call that he played there. It's obviously worked out so far. But now he's going to have Joe DeSpirito to his outside. DeSpirito was his pusher on that last green flag stint between the 4th and 5th cautions. Grant Wesley was the driver that was trying to pass him on the outside line. Now he'll be the one behind the 23 for the upcoming restart. And Chuck McClure, what do you think? Is Chuck going to try and form a 3rd lane in the closing stages here? He's been an advocate for that 3rd lane all season long. We saw him earlier on tonight leading the 3rd line on the top side. We'll have to wait and see. Well, before we ended up having the incident back with the Ken Roberts, Donnie Garrett, Tim Nofsker wreck, I was talking about a couple of drivers to keep an eye on. I had mentioned Jeremy Jeffries, the other driver that I was going to say to keep an eye on, because we hadn't seen him the entirety of the night. Every time that I looked back at replays of wrecks, he was still kind of riding at the tail end of the field, and that was Brian Schilling. Schilling, remember, was slated to roll off 10th place here tonight, took the voluntary EOL and started at the back of the pack. And I wondered when we started getting into that fuel window where it looked like the drivers are going to be able to make it the rest of the way, I wondered if potentially that was when we were going to start seeing Brian Schilling making his way forward. Well, the Busch Beer Chevrolet is currently running in the 12th position. So it looks like he has officially decided it is time to move forward. Brian Schilling with the great run last week, moved up 10 spots in the standings, 6th in overall points coming into this one, and looking for another good run here tonight. Has kept his nose clean with the multiple big ones we have had so far here tonight. You look at some of these drivers up here as well. I mentioned that at the conclusion of this evening, we will be at the halfway point of the regular season. It's an opportunity to kind of look back at these first 4 races, have a little bit of an evaluation period of what do you need to do in the final 4 races in preparation to try and clinch yourself a playoff spot. Doug Hewlick leading this race, comes into this one 33rd in overall points. We've documented about Grant Wesley missing the season opener, coming to this one 34th in points. How about Bobby Farrell there? Currently in the 6th position, comes into this one 31st in points. Big opportunity for a lot of drivers here to gain some chunks of points positioning heading into next week at Talladega. But Wiley Coate there in the 5, just noticed he's actually cracked back into the top 10. Wiley Coate was dealing with some warp issues not too long ago. He's up here. Good run so far for him. We saw him spun around in the back straightaway earlier on tonight as well. Defending champion DeMar still hovering there just outside of the top 10. And restart in the 11th position. And Bob Dixon has had a good night. He was out in front earlier on this evening for a total of 2 laps, mixing it up with Ron Hagelin after they started on the front row. And he's got a shot here late of being able to nab a top 10 finish. So it will be a 10-lap shootout when we go back green here. Bear in mind, we have the point of no return. However, with the fact that so far, all drivers that are a lap down are back in the garage area, all drivers on the racetrack are on the lead lap, that would mean that completion of lap 62 would be our point of no return rather than completion of lap 61. And that is going to be when we go back green about 6 laps from now. See if we get to that point. What flag are we racing to? Are we racing to the white flag or are we racing to the caution flag? Last week we ended up seeing them make it to lap 66 under green flag conditions. Race did not end under yellow. We'll see if they can do it here this week. As Doug Hewlick going to bring us back down here for yet another restart. This time he'll have Grant Wesley pushing him. It's Joe DeSpirito and Chuck McClure who'll be working together on the top side. Much better restart this time for Doug Hewlick. Saw in the last restart, Grant Wesley trying to time it, trying to clear around the outside line, but Hewlick and DeSpirito side by side going into turn 1. Hewlick with the advantage here. Does he shift up to the middle groove if he clears the 24 off of 2? I think he thought about it, but I don't think he was quite clear. And DeSpirito with the surge in that middle lane. Looks to clear himself going into 3. Not going to be able to do so. I think it was by inches for both drivers on whether they were clear, not clear. DeSpirito will stay in that middle lane. Hewlick battles back on the bottom. Now the middle line gets the advantage through the tri-oval. DeSpirito is now clear to move low if he so chose. But he's going to stay up there with Chuck McClure for the time being. McClure still side by side with Hewlick. 3 wide further back. One of the Texaco Haviland cars getting kicked up to the high line. I think that's Mark Pagley. Oh, we got another engine failure. That's Bernie Mobbs. And everyone scatters to avoid, and Brian Schilling catches air. The 2 SDP cars have gotten together. That's Richard Martin and Bob Dixon. Another big one on the back straightaway after the 31 of Bernie Mobbs blew up in the middle of the pack. Caution out, we're racing back to the yellow. DeSpirito now moving down to the inside line to block. Looks like we will get another restart, but another wreck right up at the front of the field, and a lot of drivers caught up in this one. A lot of big hits in that one. A lot of warp wrecks taking place in that one. And a lot of drivers who were looking like they were going to have some pretty promising finishes. That may have just gone up in smoke here with less than 10 to go. Well, Bob Sire has come to a halt there on the apron of the entrance of turn 3. There is the car that had the engine failure, Bernie Mobbs. That is back-to-back cautions with a driver having an engine failure. Tom Dixon, the other one. Brian Schilling, we saw the front end of his car kick up into the air. Front tires leaving the racing surface. Not sure who of all else was involved. I think maybe Rodney Sullins might have gotten a piece of it. We know both of the STP cars, the Chevrolet of Richard Martin, the Dodge of Bob Dixon were involved. And you won't see anybody on pit lane. So we'll go back and we'll take a look of what happened. Bernie Mobbs had crossed the line in the 7th position, had run top 10 all night long. Here it was off of turn 2. And you see he knows he's in trouble. He moves up against the wall to give room. And I believe it was the car behind him that reacted, tried moving low. And I think he might have gotten Chris Emery. Oh, man. There's Billy Elliser in it. Bob Dixon gets a shot there from Alan Martin. We're going to get some more angles here, because there were some pretty big hits that were taken in this one. Was it Craig Hagley was the car that was directly behind Bernie Mobbs? I believe it was. And I think he's going to come down and tag. I think it might be Martin. Or no, it's Emery, I believe. Oh, it's actually, I think, Brian Schilling that came down and got Emery. And look right there as the 43 and the 143 kind of meshed together. That kind of reminds me a bit of 2 weeks ago, the restart wreck that we had when Greg Palmer and Ronnie Sullivan's cars meshed together. JT Mayhew, top of your screen, was involved. He spun around. Let's try and find the 27 of Bob Sire. Look at these cars catching air there. Oh, man, it's almost like when the 143 and the 43 meshed together, Richard Martin got flung into the path of Bob Sire. And then, comes back up the track right in front of Alan Martin. And you can see the smoke billowing from underneath the 27. Saw him park it down the apron in the entrance to 3. So he's out of the race. It looks like Bernie Mobbs also the same. See if we get another angle of this one. And watch the 4 of Brian Schilling. Wow, car pops in the air. Lands down on the hood of Rodney Sullins. Milt Surratt was in that. Didn't document him. Oh, man, Bob Dixon took a shot into the inside wall as well. So caution out for the 6th time here tonight. We should get back green, but we will probably do so during the point of no return. Few drivers did a good job of getting through that wreck. Jessica Schulten, Tim Nofsker, Ron Hagelin, Jeremy Jeffries. So they gained some track position there because remember, at the timing of the yellow, it is race back. And they would have been able to bypass all of those cars that were either wrecked or spun out. And should set them up pretty well here for this upcoming restart. Jeremy Jeffries looks like he's going to be 10th for the restart. Hagelin in 12th. Cy Jones, who got through the wreck, 13th. Shelton in 15th. So they were able to gain some track position here and now have a shot of finishing this race out in the top 10. Joe DeSpirito made that move around the outside with help from Chuck McClure to get the lead from Doug Hewlick. Looking to continue on what has been an incredible start to the season for him. Looking for his first checkered flag here in season 61. He'll have Hewlick to his outside. McClure will be in 3rd. Grant Wesley in 4th. And Bobby Farrell right there in that 5th position. Greg Palmer will be 6th. Josh Metallic in 7th. Greg Hagley looks like he will be 8th. No, Wiley Coate, correction, is in 8th. Craig Hagley in... Our scoring has had an error here. Metallic in 7th. 8th, Wiley Coate. 9th, Craig Hagley. And 10th, Jeremy Jeffries. Okay, they were a little straddled visibly there unevenly. And so I wasn't sure if the scoring was giving the correct information or not. John Godfrey going to be in 11th. Ron Hagelin in 12th. Cy Jones, Mark Paglia, Jessica Schulten will be the top 15. Tim Nofsker right now in 16th. Kelly Causey, Rodney Sullins, Robbie Nice, and Glenn Harris. The top 20 for what is going to be our final restart of the night. Next flag will end the race because we just started lap 62. We will complete lap 62 when we end up taking the green flag. So next flag will end the race, so we'll give you the usual FRN disclaimer. We will stay here with the race leaders if the caution breaks out. Watch the battle back to the start-finish line. Any necessary replays we will show you either under the caution period prior to the checker or post-race. And as of right now, 14 of the top 15 are looking for their first win on the season. Greg Palmer, the fly in the ointment there, the only driver in the first 7 rows that previously has a victory this season 3 weeks ago in the season opener at Talladega. Doug Kulik going to be the honorary pace car, it looks like, right there. As we will be having this restart with 4 laps to go. 31 drivers surviving up to this point, all on the lead lap. 7 drivers back in the garage area after 6 cautions here tonight. How long do you wait if you're back in the 3rd, 4th, 5th row to try and make a push to the front? We've seen drivers try it in the early going of a late race shootout. We've seen drivers try and wait until the last lap. But remember, if the caution comes out, then it is back to the start-finish line and the race is over. And we've seen the caution come out at some very interesting times. Sometimes it'll take place just after the start-finish line. They get a whole lap to race back. Sometimes it'll take place right here in the tri-oval, and you only got 100 feet or so before you can make a move. So we'll see what happens here as the green flag is in the air. Joe DeSpirito with a great start. Chuck McClure. Little contact maybe there, close between him and Doug Kulik. Forces Kulik up to the 3rd lane. 3 wide for the 3rd position. Top 2 are clear. Bobby Farrell now going to be clear on that inside line as well. Look at the tandem drafting there. The pushing down the back straightaway from the 92 to the 17 to the 24. Josh Metallic going to make the move up there to the outside line. Metallic's going to have help this week. Last week he tried to make a move in the closing stages at Talladega and was left out to dry. This time he's got some friends as well. Glenn Harris with a slide back there off the tri-oval. Brings it back up onto the racing surface. We stay green. Look at the push that Metallic is getting here from Grant Wesley. McClure saw it coming. Looked like he thought about moving up in front of that, but there was just too much momentum, too much energy. And Josh Metallic is going to try and edge ahead here. He's already clear, I believe, for the top position with a big push from the Gatorade Chevrolet of Wesley. Out of turn 4. Only 5 cars on that inside line. Everybody up in that middle groove. The energy is definitely up in that outside line as 2 laps to go. Josh Metallic showing the way. It's been a bit of a winless streak as well for Josh Metallic. I'll have to go back and see when his last victory was, if he indeed does close out the deal here. Can't take anything for granted when it comes to super speedway racing. We've already seen a couple of wrecks take place up inside the top 5 here tonight, and they've had catastrophic results for the remainder of the field that was behind it all. As still clear on that inside line is Josh Metallic, but he stays committed to the middle groove. DeSpirito battles back on the bottom. Push is turning into shove now. As this time by, they will see the white flag. They just got to get through the tri-oval. Pinching the 24 down is Metallic, as it's a dead heat to the white flag. Metallic was the first one back to the stripe that time by. Spirito still side by side with him. It's going to come down to the 2nd, 3rd, 4th lanes. If momentum is lost, that will translate to who's going to have the advantage up here between the 39 and the 24. Looks like that middle line. They got the surge again. Metallic is clear. Does he jump to the bottom or does he stay to the middle? He'll stay to the middle for the moment. That's going to open up the door for Despirito to battle back on the bottom, and he's got a shove from Chuck McClure. Off of turn 4 for the final time. Metallic not quite clear. Here comes Despirito back again, but it looks like Josh Metallic, he's going to pick up the victory here tonight. First of the season for the Gray Ghost. And big wreck in the back there with John Godfrey and others, but they had already crossed the start-finish line. There you saw the congratulatory bump, Grant Wesley to Josh Metallic, helping push him there. You also saw a bump of Despirito to Chuck McClure. He knows McClure did everything he could to try and edge him ahead of Josh Metallic. But Despirito, for the third time this season, is a bridesmaid once again, as he'll finish runner-up behind Metallic, and Grant Wesley will complete the podium here this evening. And there's always one. I thought it was going to be Chuck McClure, but Josh saved it, and it's going to be JT that actually ends up getting Metallic. If I'm not mistaken, I believe JT and Josh ended up finishing 1-2 in that Auto Club race Monday night. Well, during our post-race wind-down, during interviews, I'll be looking back trying to see if I can find the last time that Metallic went to victory lane, but I believe we've had another rather lengthy winless streak snap. Josh Metallic, former champion of the series, going to get to burn it down here for the first time in season 61. The Gray Ghost lost in the fog, lost in the mist, as Josh Metallic burning down probably every thread of rubber on those Goodyears. You could tell by the victory celebration just how much a driver wanted the victory. We saw the elation in the victory celebration for Nofsker last week, ending the long winless streak for him. You can see the elation and the relief for Josh Metallic here with the length of this burnout celebration. As we'll take a look now at the finishing results, the official finishing results from this one. Josh Metallic with the victory. Joe Despirito in second. Grant Wesley brings it home in third. Chuck McClure in fourth. And Greg Palmer is going to finish out the evening in the top 5. Bobby Farrell up in the top 10 all night long. He'll get sixth. Doug Hulick is going to bring it home in seventh off that strategy. I didn't say it because I didn't want to jinx him. Craig Hagley has been in the catch fence in 2 of the last 3 races to start out the year. This time he survives and brings it home with an 8th place finish, so I did not want to put the commentator's curse on him. How about Jeremy Jeffries? Yes, the same car that we saw in the beginning stages of this race, upside down, had to call a tow, was a lap down, battled his way back for a top 10 finish. How about that? John Godfrey brings it home with another solid outing in the top 10. We saw Godfrey consistent last year. He was tied in a 3-way for top 10 in the standings coming into tonight, so he'll be still in the top 12 in points. Ron Hagelin started from the pole position and brings it home in 11th. Look at that, 5 1s in a row. Mark Paglia brings it home in 12th. Another solid outing for him. Should keep him up in the top 12 in points. Jessica Shelton brings it home in the 13th spot after she was out in front here tonight. Tim Nofsker, good comeback run for him. Got caught up in that wreck while running up inside of the top 5. Battled back for a top 15 and 14th. And Rodney Sullins got involved in that wreck on the back straightaway. Had Brian Schilling on his hood. He's going to salvage a top 15 finish here this evening. Cy Jones, Robbie Nisus, Chris Emery, Terry Bombard, and Brian Schilling are going to complete your top 20, with Wiley Coate in 21st. Those were the last drivers that finished up in the lead group. There was a second pack of damaged cars that were 22nd on back, led by Alan Martin. Glenn Harris was 23rd. Billy Elliser in 24th. Milt Surratt completed the top 25. Kelly Causey had damage in the early going of this one, but managed to bring it home in the 26th position, which is a far cry better than 37th or 38th. Same for JT Mayhew. Had damage for a majority of this race, but was able to bring it home in 27th. Richard Martin involved in that wreck, along with Bob Dixon on the back straightaway. When the two of them meshed together, they finished 28th and 29th. Donnie Garrett finishes off the pace in 30th, and Ken Roberts was the last driver to finish this race on the lead lap in the 31st position. We had a total of 7 drivers back behind the wall. 2 of those drivers due to mechanical issues, the other 5 out due to crash damage. Bernie Mobbs, Bob Sire, Tom Dixon, Jason Scheck, Brian Rawson, Germ Lewis, and Doug Woolley. One driver that it will be very interesting to see where he is positioned after this will be Germ Lewis. Lewis was in the top 12 in points coming to this one. He was one of the other 2 drivers, along with John Godfrey, that was tied for the 10th position in points. Ken Roberts was actually the other driver, and he finished 31st here tonight. So, like I said, last week we saw some movers and shakers, a lot of positions gained, a lot of positions lost. I'm expecting the same thing to be happening here this week, and especially in regards to that top 12 in the point standings. But with the victory here tonight, Josh Metallic, provided he stays in the top 30 in the or the top 20, I'm sorry, in the point standings, he'll be battling for a playoff position. He came into this race 7th in overall point standings after a good run last week, as well. As we head into our FRN post-race wind down, and it's time to talk to our podium finishers here tonight. Let's see if we can dial up the driver that had a big part to play in Metallic winning this race here tonight. His key pusher in the closing stages really needed some good points this evening as well. Let's see if we can dial up the number 88 of Grant Wesley.
User was moved
Hey,
to
Grant,
your
Seth up here
channel.
in the FRN studios. You got me?
Yeah, I got you, Seth.
Well, crazy restart to close this thing out. Everybody had to kind of pick and choose their alliances. Looked like you and the 39 hooked up there. Do you have any thoughts about taking it 3 there off of turn 4? Because we know you like to be able to help people, but when there's a checkered flag on the line, it's all bets are off on that final lap.
Yeah, sometimes you just have to kind of take your medicine and just, sometimes riding behind that guy is better off, the best place for you. Yeah, I mean, I definitely thought about going 3 wide, but just the momentum that the bottom lane had, basically the second and third lane just would have finished behind the bottom lane. So, yeah, it didn't work out. But yeah, that last restart, Hewlick, he got a bad start, and he got into the door to the 17 a little bit and shot up the hill. So I mean, it's kind of a bad way to start that restart with 5 laps to go. But I hate to see that for Hewlick. But we had the lead, and I was happy to see Josh jump in front of me because that really built some momentum in that second lane. So at that point, I was happy to help Josh and push him to a win there.
So we documented the fact we didn't see in the season opener. The last 2 races have not been great for you. You came into this race 34th in the point standings. So how much did your points positioning also maybe play a factor into the moves you made in the closing stages of this one to make sure you at least left with some good maximum points?
Yeah, the points are good. We led 2 laps tonight, so we got that bonus point, and yeah, definitely getting a good finish was really important. But to be honest with you, I need a win. Yeah, I was willing to risk it to get the win, but I just given all the circumstances there on the last lap, I just didn't think it was going to work out for anyone there.
So a big question we had coming into tonight's race was obviously last week you drivers had an opportunity, although we didn't see you at the first Talladega race, but it was the second time that drivers ran the Aero 88 cars at Talladega, so maybe we're getting a little bit more used to what these cars are capable of doing at that venue. Tonight was the second time that the Aero 88 cars were here at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway. Was there an increase in comfort level based off of what you'd experienced 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, I think the guys are starting to pick up on how to draft with these cars. They're really no different from the trucks that we ran before. The only difference is the fact that everything happens a little bit quicker, mainly because they suck up just a little bit faster. So you're going to bump that guy a little bit quicker. So if you're going to keep off his back bumper in the corner, you got to lift, 2 or 3 times versus one before. It's just it's a learning curve. Everyone's picking up on it. I noticed a lot of guys. I've seen a few different instances tonight where it's 3 and 4 cars tandem at the front. So yeah, they're definitely picking up on it. I expect us to get a green flag pit stop in here in the next couple races. I think the guys are getting uh, more comfortable for sure.
Well, we're looking forward to seeing what transpires with that. We've seen them do green flag pit stops at Talladega. I haven't seen them do it yet with these cars here at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway. But hopefully, as you said, we see that here maybe in 2 weeks' time. But a great run for you here tonight. Some very valuable points as well. Looks like you jumped up 7 spots to 27th in points, so continuing to make the ascent through the standings, and hopefully we see you continue to do that next week at Talladega. Grant, before we let you go, the floor is yours for thank you, sponsors, and shoutouts.
Yeah, congratulations to Josh Metallic on the win. As a hard fought win for him. I'd like to thank the owners here, David Cannon and Sean Prime. I'd like to thank RLM Marinas for them still being around. That's great. I'd like to thank the admins here, Josh, Wiley, and Tim, FRN, Seth. Man, I'm looking forward to watching this one back. Finally, I had a decent run. Um, so looking forward to that. I'd like to thank my teammates with XFM, my friends and family for watching, and my girlfriend, Brittany.
Well, Grant Wesley brings it home on the podium, third place here this evening. Great run for him here tonight after he had to start around the latter portion of midfield. Congratulations on the great performance. Hopefully we see this consistency continue next week at Talladega.
Yep, looking forward to it. Thanks.
Let's see if
User
we can
was
now
moved out
dial
of
up the
your
driver that
channel.
brings it home in second place here tonight. And that would be Joe DeSpirito.
User was moved
Hey, Joe,
to your
Seth up here in
channel.
the FRM booth. Got a copy?
Hey Seth, how you doing, man?
I'll tell you what, I cannot, at least in recent memory, remember a driver that has gotten off to as hot a start at the beginning of the year as you've been able to do. Your fourth straight top 5 finish, fourth straight top 4 finish. Let's be a little bit more specific on that. Second runner-up finish on the season. I know you want that victory, but man, this consistency this year has been unbelievable with what you've been able to do with the new mod and everything.
Hey man, it's 2024, baby. That's what it is. Um, Last season I ran good too. I had the most top tens and the most top fives, and just came down to an internet problem in the finals and lost by 1 point. So just trying to keep it rolling, man. That's it. Just trying to be consistent.
And the biggest thing that jumps out to me as well is in the last 3 weeks, you've been able to do it from a starting position outside the top 20. Here tonight, we saw 2 or 3 really big wrecks, one of them in the beginning stages that you were actually behind. So, how nerve wracking is it for you to be having this lack of track position in the early going? And how are you able to consistently remain patient, be in the right place at the right time to glean these great finishing spots?
Yeah, it's all about patience. I tend to want to jump to the second line and the third line, but then you look at how many laps are left, and you're like chill out, chill out. There's a wreck is gonna happen, and every wreck that happened that was in front of me, I was on the bottom line, which gives you more room to avoid the wreck. And that's what happened. I ducked low on both of those wrecks, and somebody tapped me on one of those wrecks, and I almost got spun. But that's the safest place to be is on the bottom, and I could feel them coming, and they happened.
All right, let's talk about that final restart there because we saw after the race was over, you give that little bump to Chuck McClure, appreciating the pushes he was giving you there. Were you guys at the max? Was there any little bit more that you could get to be able to edge out Metallic there on that final run to the checkers?
No, I don't think so. I tried to run a different line in different laps to try to make up speed and cut the corner a different way, and it worked one lap, and then another lap they got the boost. So it's really just whoever's behind you and who's pushing. So they were pushing hard on the bottom, they were pushing hard on the top. The middle lane is a faster lane. They just happen to not have a third lane come, I guess, until really late. That third lane comes and it bogs down the middle lane, but they didn't have that lane come, so they kind of had the little bit of an advantage there. And yeah, they took it. It was close though. Good win for Josh.
Definitely close for sure. Fourth straight finish in the top 4 here to start out the season. And not only that, we ended up seeing as well that you're going to be moving on to the next round of the bracket challenge that started here tonight, looking to defend your crown for that championship back in season 60. So best of luck on that, obviously, as well. Josh, before we let you go, the floor is yours for thank you, sponsors, and shoutouts.
Thanks, Seth. I want to thank RTG. I want to thank Josh, as usual, on Thursdays, doing a great job running the series. I want to thank Sean Prime and David Cannon getting in touch with Race LM and everybody that got in touch with Race LM from other leagues, and working to keep NR 2003 going. And it was a little bit of a panic last week, but everything is going smooth now. And as Sean Prime said, business as usual. So I want to thank you, Seth, and FRN. I want to thank Jason Sheck, sponsoring broadcast this season with 260 Motorsports. I want to thank my sponsors, Old City Fly Shop. I want to thank my team, Mobs Motors. I want to thank my dad for watching, my uncle Travis, Paul from Stewart Haas Racing. I want to thank LC, Dan, and everybody at work watching. Thanks, guys.
Well, Joe DeSpirito, another solid outing here tonight, continues to grow his points lead heading into this second half of the regular season. He's still looking for that one position better, though. He'll look for the checkered flag next week at Talladega. Congrats on the great run tonight. Best of luck in these final 4 races heading towards the playoffs.
Thanks, Seth. Have a good night.
Joe
User was
DeSpirito,
moved out of your channel.
4th straight finish inside the top 4. That is incredible, especially when you consider it's a super speedway series, maybe one of the toughest series to remain consistent. There are so many ups and downs, but the fact he's been able to do that, and again, as I said, his last 3 starts have been outside of the top 20. His best start in the last 3 races has been 22nd. He started tonight's race from 34th and brought it home in the runner-up position to this driver, who we're going to be talking to right now down in Victory Lane. Let's dial up the pilot of the Gray Ghost, Josh Metallic.
User was moved
Hey, Josh,
to your
Seth up here
channel.
in the FRM booth. You got me?
I got a copy.
Well, I'll tell you what. Last week, we saw the elation on the burnout from Tim Nofsker, a winless streak stretching back to the beginning stages of season 59. Even longer winless streak for you. We just looked it up. April 13th of last year, the season finale of season 58, and you're finally back in Victory Lane. We saw the lengthy burnout. Obviously, it looks like the excitement was at an all-time high for you in capturing this one tonight.
Oh yeah, they're so tough to win. Yeah, I've been in good positions a lot of times and get caught up in a wreck or make the wrong move at the wrong time. I think I was in the good position last week and pulled out a line trying to go for a win, and no one went, and I end up like ninth, or I don't know where I was at. So I was in the right spot. I was praying the third line didn't show up and start pulling us back, and yeah, it worked. Thanks to Grant and to Greg Palmer for the good pushing.
Yeah, we ended up seeing as well this Gray Ghost throwback up in the top 5, top 10 all night long. Seemed like in that area as well, we had a couple of big wrecks take place. So you were in the vicinity of a couple of them, ahead of a few of them. I mean, how nerve-wracking is it here in this field? Big fields that we see weekly, a lot of points on the line, to be able to put yourself in the right spot to hopefully not get involved if the big one takes place. Because so far, or as we saw here tonight, you were able to keep that car clean.
It was luck. I mean, that first wreck happened right in front of me, and I just kept it up along the wall and prayed, and held the throttle, full 100%. And there's another one that happened right in front of me, and I escaped to the low side. So yeah, there were some close calls. I kept telling Tim and Wiley, talking with them during the caution, I said, I know with all the luck I've had, I'm gonna get taken out in the last wreck whenever it happens, and it didn't happen. So yeah, I'm the burnout, just being so happy that it all worked out.
Now, obviously, you came into this race, you had moved up in the point stands. I believe you were 7th in points coming into this one. You gained another 5 spots with this victory here tonight, up to 2nd in points. So, with 4 races left in the regular season, this victory all but solidifying yourself a spot in the playoffs, provided you stay in the top 20 in points, which we've seen drivers be able to do. What's the next goal here for this final home stretch towards the playoffs? Are you eyeing the regular season championship? Are you looking for consistency to have a high seed in the playoffs? We know that the position at the end of the regular season gives out bonus points. Are you looking for another checkered flag? What is the goal now in these final 4 races?
Yeah, it's both. It's wins and positions in the points. A win is the same thing as moving up one position in the points. I know Joe's got a pretty big lead. He could almost take a week off, I think, and still be the points leader the way he's dominating the points. But yeah, every position points wise counts as a win. So you want both, either or. So I'm still going to stay aggressive because I can. I got a little bit of buffer with that win, but You don't want to do it something overly risky and lose a bunch of points, lose a bunch of positions in the standings, and you're left with less bonus points when the playoffs start. So you can't go reckless abandon. You're still, the points are still a thing. I know I'm up there now, but two or three bad races, one bad race, and you're back 5 spots. So it's still tight.
Well, pretty cool to be able to see a winless streak snapped in the past 2 weeks. Congratulations on the victory. We'll let you get back to your celebrating in just a moment, but first, we're going to give the opportunity for some victory lane. Thank you, sponsors, and shoutouts, Josh.
Yep. Well, obviously, do want to say thanks to you. Always here, always putting out awesome broadcasts. The guys love them. I love them. I love watching them. So I like having them Thursday night. Gives us something to watch over the weekend. Thanks to Rodney for the Gray Ghost. That car is beautiful. Tim and Wiley for helping me keep this series going. And a huge thanks to Sean Prime and David Cannon. I know there was some concerns about if the race of the Limb was still going to be around, and when things got a little precarious, they jumped in immediately last Friday night over the weekend, took up all their time on a weekend to get things taken care of there. Thanks to Brian at Race LM for giving us these servers. We never have issues with them. So I think we take that for granted quite often, that we just don't even have problems. Every once in a blue moon, something goes wrong. So thanks to all those guys for giving us something to race. I'm rambling, but I'm happy, and I'm happy. Race LM RTG is still going strong, and looks to be going for a while now. So appreciate all that.
Well, congratulations on the victory here tonight, Josh. We'll let you go and enjoy it. Best of luck here down the home stretch, running towards the playoffs. Going to be a lot of fun to see what this Buddy Baker throwback's going to be able to do in these final 4 races.
I appreciate it, Seth. Thank you.
Josh Metallic becomes the
User was
fourth
moved out of
different
your
winner
channel.
on the season. By the way, shout out to James Qualls for hitting the year 1980 Buddy Baker throwback. If there's anybody that I know that's going to know what year the throwbacks are from, it's going to be that guy. But great job by Josh Metallic here tonight. He joins Dante Ricky, Greg Palmer, and Tim Knopfsker as a winner on the season. And again, like I said, it's a feel good story when you're able to see drivers that have gone to victory lane in the past, but it's been a long time between that last victory. We saw that it was all the way back in May since Tim Knopfsker had gotten his last victory, and he was able to end that winless streak last week. And then all the way back April of last year was the last time that Josh Metallic went to victory lane, the season finale of season 58, and he's able to snap the winless streak here tonight. Will we see another winless streak snapped next week? We're going to have to wait and find out. We'll have you updated on the point standings after the conclusion of this one, as well as those that moved on in the bracket series at the conclusion of tonight's race, in preparation for the second half of the regular season, race number 5 next Thursday night. Be sure to join us for that one. Should be a good one as we head back to Talladega Superspeedway for their third race of the season at that venue. Hope you guys enjoyed our coverage here tonight. Just a couple of last minute things. Number one, be sure to join us this weekend, Sunday night, here on FRN. First time ever you are going to see the LA Coliseum featured in the NR 2003 Sims, courtesy of Area 23 Designs. It'll be run in the exhibition race to start off the 2024 season for the Fast Renegade Pro Cup Series. Join us at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time this Sunday night. We'll see you guys here for the Talladega Challenge Series next Thursday night. And also to kind of reiterate what some of the drivers said there, if you or somebody you know wants to be having a server on Enter 2003 for online racing, check out RLM Arena. There was a big scare, as you heard, with a lot of drivers wondering if we were going to be able to still have online servers. Yours truly has a server that runs leagues. Obviously, RTG. We've seen Bomb Squad Racing. We've seen Talladega Nights. We've seen a whole bunch of different MOT, Afterburner, a bunch of different leagues that are out there providing the opportunity for drivers to be able to go out there, have some fun, do some sim racing with each other. RLM Arena really is the main area out there still that provides those online servers. So we're doing everything we can to try and help support them, keep them in business, and keep this sim going. So if you want to check them out, to see what kind of service they provide and whatnot, head on over to racelm.com. That's racelm.com. But thank you all for tuning in here tonight. Once again, happy birthday to my broadcast colleague, Michael Norman. He is 31 years old now. He's never going to catch me, though. We will see you guys next Thursday night, though. Appreciate you tuning in as you've been watching another broadcast courtesy of FRN, the Flatout Racing Network.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of Flatout Racing Network and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Flatout Racing Network and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations. Flatout Racing Network would like to thank you for your support, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast.